Holy Hotdogs is a feeding ministry that we came up with in 2020, and it means it's a lot. It's not work. It's something that we enjoy doing, and I love being in charge of it because it's kind of now runs itself, so it's pretty easy.
Holy Hot Dogs is an outreach program that we started, and then we actually started it during the pandemic. Um, Basically, we missed each other, and then we wanted to do something for the community. It just means a lot to me to see people pulling up, and especially like if they have young kids and they're like, "Oh, I don't have to cook tonight," or "This is so nice," and this is such a blessing. And to me, that just means the world. It really does.
Holy Hot Dogs is a feeding ministry. It's an outreach to the community. And I think the most meaningful thing to me is that it gives us an opportunity as a congregation to reach out to the community and become one with the community. I really firmly believe that what we need to do as a church is come outside the church's walls. And so this feeding ministry in the parking lot gives us an opportunity to bring church outside its walls.
Holy Hot Dogs is this strange phenomenon that has to be Holy Spirit fed. We came up with this nutty idea to get together because people in the congregation missed one another a lot. And the community around East Berlin couldn't gather at all. And so when we started it, it was really to feed people's spirits more than to feed their stomachs. It was just an idea of how we could grill hot dogs distanced outside with masks and gloves and all those things, and pack things into bags safely and then hand them into cars without a lot of interaction between people. And at one point we even had tongs handing the wrapped hot dogs and the bags into cars, and it was such a spirit feeder because people could wave at one another and neighbors saw each other and church folk got to work together. And so we coined this crazy name, Holy Hot Dogs, because they turned out to be holy. But it really wasn't a feeding ministry as much as a community gathering ministry at first. And now it's just evolved into this thing that we expect because we love doing it so much, and the community really loves receiving the hot dogs. And I mean, let's face it, it's not about the hot dog.
I'm Ruth Ann Bowen, and I was part of the original Mission in Motion committee. And we decided back in 2020, since we weren't doing anything and our church wasn't open, we needed to do something to be together as a church family and in the long run to help somebody who was also suffering through COVID, whichever way they were suffering.
My name's Deb King, and I'm just a volunteer. I help out as often as I can. I really enjoy it.
My name is Kay Hinkle, and I'm a volunteer with Holy Hot Dogs. The most meaningful part for me is that we do get to interact with the community, get to take the church's business, change the business model of the church, if you will, to taking the church outside of the church's walls.
I am Pastor Susan McCarthy, and I am the pastor here at Trinity, but in terms of Holy Hot Dogs, I help, but I'm really just the cheerleader.
We pursued this ministry as a result of COVID. We had done mission trips. We started by going to the Jersey Shore when Sandy hit and it was about 2012. So our fundraisers covered the cost of mission trips to the Jersey Shore and other places that had flood damage, hurricane relief, that kind of thing. And then the pandemic hit. We still had those funds set aside for mission trips, but traveling became more difficult. And so we decided we needed to minister to the community, and there were lots of opportunities here at home.
We couldn't do anything to get together. So we decided to do a hot dog ministry just by stopping cars in the alley. We wore masks, we wore gloves, and we put everything in a bag, and we would just hand them their bag, and then they would go on their way. They never got out of their car or anything. So that was kind of the backing for the hot dogs. If it wouldn't have been for COVID, we probably would have never thought of it. I order the hot dogs, and then I go pick them up over in Mechanicsburg. They're in our freezer. So usually our hot dogs are Wednesdays, so sometimes Sundays, sometimes Mondays, I get 2 boxes out. There's 16 each box, so we do 120 hot dogs each week. And then we get cases of mustard and ketchup over at the restaurant store. That's where we get our bags. That's where we get the foil that we wrap them in. On Wednesday morning, I go and get the rolls because I like them to be as fresh as possible for that day. And then sometimes I go Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday down to Martin's and get the chips down at Martin's. We get their case of chips. It's 32 a case, so I get 4 cases, and that's our 120. Sometimes I do more than 120 hot dogs because we do feed our volunteers. So I might get, 15, 20 out, or have extra from when we had our penny carnival and we used those to feed us. Then after I do that, we come in Wednesday between 3:30, and we had to set up our tables. We take 2 or 3 tables outside. They get our grill out. We take crock pots. We take a big roaster out to put the hot dogs in after they've been put in foil. I have volunteers come in that get our bags together. We put numbers on the bags 1 through 6, and then we put the chips, our condiments in there, and then everybody gets a thing of applesauce. So I have volunteers that do those. We carry them out, and they start grilling the hot dogs about 4:30. And it's fun because the closer it gets to 5, the more cars are lined up down the alley. Last night, which was 8:23, we have 1 more week, and last night I took a picture. There was 8 cars, so they stopped at Water Street and then continued the line, and until we actually started, I think we had 10 cars, so they would have been the whole way down to the beer distributors. So that's kind of a neat thing that people get that excited and want to be first in line for our hot dogs.
Part of it is being with the church family, but a huge part of it is, meeting the people that come week after week and getting to know them. They'll pull up and I'm like, oh yeah, you get 4, right? Or you get 5. And, and they'll like grab your hand and they'll say, bless you. And it's so heartwarming. It really is.
Well, I think Trinity already had a sense of community within the church, and that was really important for people to continue to serve others and work together and maintain the community feeling at Trinity even during the pandemic restrictions. And so it really created that because it allowed us to be creative and be together in ways that nobody prior to COVID-19 ever would have even thought about. And it's created community around us because people so look forward to coming and waving at one another. And it's kind of a checking in place too. People will say, oh, how was your week? Because a lot of times we get the same people. And when we start to serve hot dogs at 5 o'clock, there's a line of cars. And a lot of times we recognize who's there and we say, oh, here comes the lady who gets 5, and here comes the lady who needs 10. And it's a welcoming time, and it's fast and easy, so it's not like you have to sit around and make awkward conversation, but it's joyous and it's fun, and people look forward to receiving them, and we look forward to cooking them and handing them out.
It's a sense of community because there's a lot of volunteers. We get volunteers from church that sometimes don't even volunteer for anything else that we do. They just love coming and doing the hot dogs. It's a sense of community because a lot of the people that come, we know, they come week after week. There are other people that we stop in the alley that never heard about it. They saw our sign, and then they become members of our hot dog community, I guess you call it.
there's this older couple that comes, and he's going through a bout with cancer. So every week she reports how he's doing, and usually he's with her. And she'll say, oh, he didn't have any side effects from, the treatment or something like that, and we just have kind of bonded through that and check in every week. How's he doing? And I think that would be one of the things that really stands out.
Yeah, I think the first time that I saw a line of cars at 5 p.m., which is when Holy Hot Dogs start on Wednesdays, the line of cars went around the block. People had their windows rolled down, ready to order a certain number for their family members, and we had too many volunteers. We too were hungry for socialization, and so volunteers showed up out of woodwork, and we had to say, since we have a social distancing rule, we need to limit the number of volunteers to 10 or 12. So next week, let's sign up, and we'll stage the volunteers by week to make sure that we were meeting those requirements. And what a good feeling to say, I've got too many volunteers, and oh, by the way, look at all the guests lined up around the block.
I think anything a church or you do individually that will make somebody else feel better and feel worthy of themselves, you should do. It's hard to think of things to help other people. On a big scope, the hot dogs is one of our things we do. But I think anything you do to help somebody, whether it's a kind word or open the door for them, it's something meaningful. So you don't always have to feed them hot dogs, but you can just feed them love and compassion and friendship.
I think it's important for people to note that we learned that there is an opportunity to do God's work wherever we are. We don't need to be within the walls. We don't need the guests in our community to come inside. We can minister to them. We can increase the size of the community and our church family. If we're really going to be the hands and feet of Jesus, we can do that wherever we are. And it feels good to know that Trinity is a welcoming church, and our community members see us as someone who can help. So beyond food pantry, beyond our feeding ministries, we hear from those folks when they need us, and they're comfortable enough to come to us. And for that, I'm thankful.
I hope we continue to do Holy Hot Dogs for a long time into the future. It's sad when we have to pause because we don't have the personnel every week, or because we have to watch our funding, or just because we move to something else so it doesn't become a boring, unimportant gift. It's like we're coming to the end of the summer now, and we're already talking about when we'll start in the spring and how long we'll do it next summer, and the expectation of both our community within the church and the outside community of the fact that we'll have these hot dogs and they can find a meal and community at Trinity.
We did 134 hot dogs because I took extra out for the help, and we actually handed out 130 hot dogs. I think 4 people got a hot dog, 4 helpers, in 15 minutes. Last night we started handing out at 5 o'clock, and we handed out our last hot dog at 5:15, which we've done from 5 to 5:30 before, but we have never handed that many hot dogs in 15 minutes. It was unbelievable, but it was so cool too.